making decisions that do not have negative consequences for either current or future generations. Under this broad definition, sustainability impacts on a wide range of ecological and human issues, from the preservation of natural resources to a commitment to human and societal well-being. The sustainability issues and real-time case studies discussed here today will disrupt your understanding of what is sustainability in reality. Good evening, friends. Once again, a very warm welcome to Brand 10,000 W Competitor 100 Days to a Leadership Transformation Series, Day 22. I'm Aparna G. Kumar, the Global Co-Chairperson of GCPIT, that is a Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade, a not-for-profit registered in India and South Africa. The mission of GCPIT is to handhold, empower, and support SMEs globally. Adopting sustainable practices, whether large or small, can have significant impacts in the long run. But what are these sustainable practices and what are the challenges we face while practicing sustainability? To speak more about this topic, we have an expert with us today. She is none other than Ms. Rajshri Rao. She is a globally acclaimed industry thought leader, visionary, advisor, principal consultant, and mentor in next-gen technologies, artificial intelligence, AI, cloud computing, data analytics, robotics, Industry 5.0, Internet of Things, 5G, AR, VR, blockchain, and smart cities across industry verticals. After working for 20 plus years in the corporate across the regions, India, US, and APAC, Sri is back to her roots to venture into the next biggest growth market in the world. Sri brings with her the diverse industry experience of working with IBM, Intel, and SAP, leading and influencing the technology adoption within the Singapore government and public sector for building the smart city and smart nation initiatives in the APAC region. As the head of AI Innovation Hub and Partnerships and Ecosystem for R-Square Data Labs at Rolls-Royce, she champions the open innovation and has developed two futuristic strategies called the Partnership Innovation Model for Rolls-Royce and Hybrid Model of Innovation Hub, or the Center of Excellence concept. As a digital transformation and innovation leader, she has played an integral role in helping RR in its digital-first culture journey. She is a graduate from Bangalore University in business management and has a computer science diploma in e-commerce. She enjoys international travel, cooking, and is in the constant pursuit of spirituality. She is also passionate about women's empowerment and spends her free time working with women and women's organizations. She has been recognized by Thinkers 360 as one of the top 50 global thought leaders and influencers in technologies, AI, blockchain, cloud computing, ecosystem, 5G, and IoT. She is featured in the 3 AI list of AI and analytics leaders to watch out for in 2021. She is one of the top 100 global women in leadership achievers of GCPIT this year. And as a change maker, she holds the prestigious role of Global Director General of SDG's Global Impact Startups of GCPIT. She will be working with the world bodies to define strategies and advise the executive leadership team for the successful execution of the identified projects within their regions. She's also featured as one of the 150 plus global cloud thought leaders and next generation leaders of 2021 by Viz Labs. Let me proudly present before you innovation strategist, emerging tech leader, industry thought leader, advisor, mentor, keynote speaker, Thinker 360, top 100 B2B women 2021, Ms. Rajshri Rao. Over to you, Rajshri. Welcome once again to the show, and we are really honored to have you with us again.
Hi, Aparna. Hi, GCPIT. Thank you to the entire GCPIT fraternity and for having me once again here. And please, I'm tired of you reading. You don't have to so much. I'm like, can you stop? It's enough. But anyways, thank you. There's a very warm welcome. And today this is a most important topic, this is a word we call it sustainability. And I've been quite passionate about this for a long time because I champion open innovation, I champion innovation, and sustainability is an element of that entire innovation. I think both are interlinked. I need to make a conclusion whether innovation is underpowering sustainability or sustainability is underpowering everything else. So with that, today I'm going to open up with a very basic concept of what do we mean innovation, and then I will talk about the sustainability challenges and how do we actually leverage innovation by imbibing the element of sustainability in anything that we do. Now, if you look at innovation, everybody talks about many a time, they talk about invention. So innovation is not invention, or it's not about something, a new idea comes and then you go on innovating. Innovation means you're only renewing. There is already an existing framework, an existing product, an existing technology. What you do is constantly advance it. Likewise, an example in that capacity I will give is AI. Today, everything is underpowered by AI. When we say AI is not invented or it's not even innovated. AI already exists. What we're doing is rather we are innovating in leveraging the existing technology in advancing towards the the future. How do we leverage AI and adapt or implement it in some of this very interesting ways of how do we do our work, how do we live, and how do we do business for that matter in our world. So that's what we have been adapting. Example, earlier things which was physically done or it was manually done is being automated. So what is AI helping with? Some of the automations of mundane tasks or some of the very laborious mundane tasks which can be done by machines rather than wasting a human intelligence to do that. So that's from an innovation perspective. So, but what was invention in our world is, example is this wonderful smartphone. And I love to talk about smartphone because that has disrupted the way we are operating today. And that is definitely an invention. I wouldn't even call innovation. But what has been innovative factor in that is how the smartphone has been evolving. It's only you're renewing it, right? The concept of smartphone is once and for all which got invented, but after that what you are seeing is that amount of innovation. What kind of features can I innovate? What can I bundle it with? How can I make my customer happy? The latest iPhone has about 3 cameras. Earlier, even one camera with a very low pixel was what was inbuilt, but today we have advanced to the capacity to have 3 cameras in a phone. That's incredible. So that's innovation. So that's what you're renewing every single time you come up with a new product release. Now, with all that, so now the point of is sustainability. Now, in all of this advancements, there is something called we use the resources like the different components that we use to develop this or manufacture this product, technology, or solution. Anything it can be. Now, I'm going to, because I touched the iPhone, I'm going to give a very interesting use case. Today the challenge lies in everybody's talking about sustainability. I'm going to pick on renewable energy. The energy is what I'm going to talk about, and one of the most burning subjects in the world right now across the globe. We all talk about, oh, we need to have smartphone. Today if you look at, every person is having minimum 2 laptops or 2 phones minimum on an average, okay? And if he doesn't have a minimum 2 phones and he's there's something wrong with him, and that's the world we have entered into. And if you look at our even rural segment, everybody's keen on having a smartphone, no matter what version of it is. Of course they can't afford iPhone, but at least whatever the cheapest bets capacity available, they will have a smartphone. So there's a fun that I do make. In India, people might be begging and they will not even have food to eat, but you know what? They will definitely have a smartphone. That's the level of requirement of phone that has happened in our world. Now, coming back, I'm going to take the case about today. You take the phone, you take the computers, or you take even your vehicles today, right? Our vehicles are having the high-end infotainment systems, and all this is possible because of this a very interesting thing that they're doing. They're shrinking the chips that gets into these the main chip that gets into each of these product. Now everybody has given you a understanding that the chip, the chip is made out of silicon, a material called silicon. But do you actually know what is the chip made of? I'm sorry, the silicon made of. The silicon is made, people say that silicon is made from sand, but sand has a lot of impurities. So what exactly goes in producing this silicon? Now, silicon is made of melting of two important products. One is the high quality quartz, and the second one is the piece of coal. Now, they take a piece of quartz, the high quality quartz, which is mined in North Carolina, which is called the spruce pine. I think, yeah, spruce pine. In in the US state, one of the states, and they mine this product, and later they mix it with a piece of coal. Now they burn these two products, two natural resources, not products, I'm sorry, two natural resources together at 1800 degrees Celsius. And what comes out of that that whole process is called silicon. Now, when you melt, what happens is the carbon dioxide evaporates. So what remains with you is unclean coal. Now, you're using that unclean coal that is called silicon. Rather, I just say unclean coal because it's obviously it's melted. So the unclean coal is already mixed in along with the quartz, and the silicon contains this unclean coal. And this chip is there everywhere. Now, whether it is your computer, whether it is your phone, anything that you use, you have a chip. Are you not emanating carbon from it? Are you not breathing it? Are you not causing harm to the environment? Imagine the amount of phones we are using today. That's number one. Now, number two is, I'm taking a next example about renewable energy. Now, when we say, now next thing comes about, okay, now we are all talking about renewable energy. Everybody talks about solar, wind, solar energy, wind energy. Now, have you even understood how does the solar power gets generated? Of course, yes, everybody knows we have solar panels, we install that, and when the sun, the sun's rays fall, the energy is generated. Do you know, if you take a football stadium and you have the entire football stadium is converted into solar panels, you install the solar panels over there, and it can only power up to 8 houses, and that to the energy gets produced only if there is sun. The number of hours of sun is there, only then the energy can get produced. Now what happens in the remaining time? Then people say, okay, we leverage the wind power. And do you know the amount of the capex that is required to build the solar fields or solar farms or even the windmills? Do you know how much of cement is used, and where does the cement come from? What are you burning to produce that? Aren't you, causing more and more harm to the environment? So these are the fundamentals. A man or anybody in this world, we don't make it a point to go and understand. Everybody has been talking about sustainability. Everybody says, oh, we are doing, we have implemented an element of sustainability into our organization. One of the goal is we will have carbon neutral. But where is carbon neutral? You're producing more carbon. You're actually destroying the environment. Now, the windmill can only operate when there is wind. So what happens when it is snowing? And most important, in it takes at least 2 years. In 2 years time to 3 years, there's always a service cost that comes in. There could be damage due to if there is a storm or something, the windmills can crack, and again repairing that is a huge investment. So where is that funding going to come from? Similar, like if there is lightning or whatever, your solar panel gets destroyed. So what happens then? You're actually then using the smart grid. You're connected into the smart grid. Whether you like it or not, there is no renewable energy happening, and this is a reality. And next, take the next industry called automobile. Everybody's talking about EV. The whole world is jumping ahead. EV, EV, EV. Now, this is a very interesting. There's a very beautiful documentary on this on electric vehicles. I think the first Volvo launched its old car, and I think at that time they said, "Oh, we have this. We have come out. We are saving energy." And when people were questioned, they were aghast because they didn't know where this was coming. They said, "Oh, we are using the energy we're getting the battery from Lansing, and Lansing knows what it is. Lansing is a company." When went to Lansing, they said, "Oh yeah, we have generated this energy. We're not leveraging the electricity, but we're leveraging solar and windmills." And when they went and researched, they found it no, everything gets connected back to the smart grid because you need to keep running. So this is the reality. And to say I'm creating a renewable energy, I'm actually going into sustainability or creating more harm to the environment. You're causing more destruction to the environment. Why? Because you have not done your studies or research in the way it has to be done. Now, imagine we're all living and breathing with this kind of harmful coal, like the carbon neutral. No, already we're breathing harmful gases, harmful rays that is being produced from different aspects of our life. Our environment is polluted. And what got destroyed to build this the solar farm? they use the desert land where there are some of the most beautiful 500 years old plants. They completely cut them, they destroy that whole things. And the next interesting aspect is they say, oh, this is renewable, the plants can grow back. No, you're not letting the plants grow back, you're completely destroyed it. And I'll give you another example about what they are doing, the renewable aspect, right? They're saying biomass energy. What does biomass energy mean? Biomass energy means simply this, right? Now, in US, people started with it saying, okay, we need to find an alternate, and they came up with biomass because there are a lot of trees in US, there's a huge thick forest. So what they're doing is they cut the wet woods and the green woods and the wet woods. They cut that, and in order to, so they have this plant called biomass plant. They have installed a very interesting plant, and in that they process the wood. Now if it is a wet or green wood, it doesn't burn. So what do they add to that? They add tire chips. It's a rubber. Isn't it not emanating a dangerous substance which is going to pollute the environment, what you breathe? Now, how did this plan get funding? Because nobody understood. The term renewable was used. The moment the word renewable it got branded, the organization labeled itself a renewable, organization, and then they get the funding of $11 billion or $11 million, whatever the funding that they get. Now, who's going to research and find out what exactly are they doing? When they did a research, and there were schools around, where they have started. This is in Vermont or in Michigan State University. So pretty much almost all the states, if you look at the whole map, they have installed n number of biomass plant, causing harm to the environment. And you know what you need to power 1 year of energy? You need to cut the entire forest in the US, the trees in the US. And what does that mean? Oh, they say, oh, the trees will grow back, okay, because it's renewable. But it takes next 100 years. You and me will not even be alive. So what is the world we are going to leave behind for our future generations? Have you ever thought so? Recently, World Economic Forums released a very interesting video, the figures. The amount of exploitation that the man has done, the human beings have done in the last 200 years has not happened in a billion years at all. The amount of natural resources that we have, utilized and are not even grateful to what has been, given to us. We've been voraciously greedy and, taking and taking and taking, abusing this environment. So when will you stop? How much more is enough for you is a question that we all have to ask. And today, if we do not get an understanding and open our mind and go and understand what is renewable, how do you how is sustainability done, we are not going to stand up and have a better world. We're not going to be able to fight these devils in the world. And who's the one who's making $1 billion? All these organizations. And who is the one who's supporting them? People like you and me. Why? Because we're all been we've all been ignorant, because nobody questioned the system. We just accepted. Why? Because why do I care about what's happening? I have to just bother about myself. So that's a very small mind mentality we have all been living with. So when can this transformation come? One is, first, when you have this knowledge about the reality. Number two is when we all come together to make a difference and say no to plastics, say no to polyester. I'll give you a very interesting aspect about polyester. Today, if you wear, what polyester comes from? Crude oil. Do you know that's the most harmful product that you're consuming? And the clothes that you wear, if you go and read your label, it'll say 20% cotton, 20% nylon, or 20% something else, and it says 60% polyester. And polyester is it cannot be recycled. So what are you going to do about it? And you take Singapore is talking about sustainability. I'm sorry, the entire Singapore people, that if whatever they consume is all about polyester. So where is cotton? So where is natural things that you're leveraging? No, and you're causing harm to environment. And the amount of air conditions that is being used, right? I lived in Singapore for 10 years. Trust me, I did not, okay, I don't think I can save the world or change, but I can be the change I want to see in this world. I can stop using air condition. I don't use air condition come what may. I only use a fan. That is my personal goal. I don't wear a product which is polyester. I have already dumped it. Okay. I only first see if it is a cotton, and then only I will wear. And also, even if you take today cotton also requires a lot of water to produce. So what is the alternate? Now that is the sustainability that you all have to think through. Those who are in the research, those who are, the future generation, those who are working towards this, you need to first ask about what is sustainability. Sustainability is not some methodology. It is about inculcating the real time knowledge behind what is it you're trying to do. In the name of sustainability, we are causing more harm to the environment than ever before. And when people come and tell me, oh, we are doing, United Nations, we have 17 goals, we are doing this, what the hell are you doing? Please ask this question. What sustainability are you doing? Do you even have an idea that, did you know that silicon is not made of sand? Because you have only been brainwashed with all the fantastic, fantastic marketing, videos and all the images and everything. Oh, we are sustainability, we are doing this, we are doing that. But who has given birth to this? The amount of industrialization, the growing population, the amount of consumption. Okay, how much more is enough? Do you need 10 garments? Do you need 20 garments? Why do you voraciously buy? I will ask for all the people today. One of the things that I've gone back to is my roots, promoting the Indian art and culture, which is so rich. And you know what, it's very sad to know that everybody is actually given to China for mass production. Even the fantastic art of a Banarasi weaving, a silks, the concept of weaving, the silk producing, is given to the fakely manufacture, and which is duplicate, and you send back to India. This is the way our world is. Why? Because there are profit mongers in between. They all want to make money. The artisans don't get, you know what, today I will pay the price to get it sourced from the artisan who works hard. And that is something I personally taken. I do not wear one thing that has a polyester in that. And I'm making this transformation within myself. And can we live a simple life? Can we have a meaningful life rather than hoarding and possessing and the more and the more? And what are you going to do? You're going to destroy not only this environment, this world, and your future generation is going to suffer a big time. So these are the brutal realities of life. Have you ever thought of? Because it's a fad word, There was a time, sorry, I was just there was a time in there was a time where this technology, the technology fad words, IoT, blockchain, AI. Do you know the excessive use of AI is also going to lead to some disruption, some harmful which is going to affect it's going to cause harm to the environment. It's going to affect the environment. I'll tell you, blockchain. What is the concept of blockchain? Blockchain was developed because it was someone who just found that, he created a Bitcoin concept and leveraging this blockchain technology. Now, what did the world do? Now, that was done in a very small capacity. Now, the whole world has evolved into mining. Do you know how much of energy is required to mine cryptocurrencies? In China and many other countries, they have massive supercomputers that is going to mine this. And for mining this, you need high-end GPUs. The graphic processing units are required. And manufacturing that is a huge challenge, because today there's a huge supply and demand, but the cost has gone high. The cost has gone up so much. And what does it leverage for? Doing something harm. Do you know the cost of an example, running a data center, the energy, not the cost, the energy to run the data center is equivalent to the energy consumed in the entire Denmark country for 1 year or 1 month, I think. So that's the kind of things that are there. So what are you leveraging the technology? What are you using for mining? Even the system of yours is now used by these miners without even your knowledge. Why? Because there's a technology called Internet of Behavior, which is always tracking you, and it's telling the world what you do, what you don't do. So there is no data security and privacy. All that nonsense doesn't exist. Today, we don't have a privacy at all. Everything is, trapped. The Google is learning in the name of artificial machine learning. All the nonsensical things is happening. There is no, everything that you do, every move of yours is tracked. Somebody's actually watching. Somebody's right now watching our conversation. Somebody's listening. Somebody's recording. The amount of data, we know why, because of the boom of the amount of content that has come about. And if you do not understand how to differentiate between a fake news and what is real, you're going to be falling in prey of what you're watching, and you believe that is true. I'll give you a very stupid example. Last week, I just saw some video on, it's on Kitchen Hack. I saw some video on how do you clean some very thick or rigid, suit from your pan. Now they told a very interesting concept. You just put some salt, you put some baking soda, and then you put a little bit of detergent and cover it with some tissues and pour the white vinegar, and within a few minutes it all washes away. I really tried this. I really want to know whether I test it out myself to know whether it's a fake news or real news. And when I tried, not an iota of soot did it go away. So how does that happen? What are you trying to show something false to the people? And this is the kind of knowledge we are getting. I'm just giving an example. The same goes for technology or any other field. Till you don't go do your own effort, till you don't put in your effort in really learning what is the real aspects, what are the things, you are not going to be able to help your children in understanding, nor yourself. And where are you going to go? You're going to be succumbing into the system. So these are some examples that I have given today to open up your thought process, to open up your thinking, and how are you going to be able to in your own capacity say no to some of these dangerous things and stand up for having a sustainable life, sustainable product, sustainable everything, so that this world can be a better place for everybody. It's not only for few people who have always wait to take the pound of flesh from what is advancing. Even excess of technology is harmful. And just last week, one of the IBM fellows is part of the European organization, which is conducting a study and a research to standardize the AI, the use of AI, because excessive of use of AI has led to a lot of harmful issues. So how do they all stop? So today everybody's trying to do something, but if you don't understand the root cause, so that is why we say sustainability aspect is, it's about a root. You have to go back to your root and understand what is really sustainable. You know what? We have always been living a sustainable life. You know why? We had simple needs. Today our desires have become insatiable and voracious. We want 10 cars, we want 3 cars, because of the buying power. And where is it heading? It's heading fast towards destruction of our environment. And this is something I'm going to leave it a question, a thought in you. How are you going to make the difference? Because if you don't stand up and you don't be the change in this world, nobody can do anything about it. So I cannot change the world myself, but I can begin with me. At the same time, everybody has to come together to make the difference in this world, and it is possible. So with that thought, I will now open up for questions, and I think we'll have more a Q&A session. I think I've covered what I have to talk about, the sustainable challenges.
Yes, thank you so much, Rashi. That was a very, very powerful and eye-opening session. We never knew that we are emanating carbon from the chips and mobiles, and we never knew the reality about solar panels and windmills. So many things. We never knew that in the name of sustainability, we are harming the environment. So I would like to know more about the solutions. What are the small steps we can move towards sustainability? Before that, let's open the session for questions from our audience. Dear friends, you can unmute yourself. I think Christy has been appreciating a lot. She was, yeah, Christina, I knew you.
Thank you. Rajesh, thank you. That was an amazing session. Really, really appreciate it. And yeah, because I think I'm very much aware of all these as issues, but like your good self and the team at GCPIT, really driven about finding proper root cause solutions. I believe, and one of the reasons why we've had such a battle here in Scotland is we see very many people with symptomatic solutions. They get all the money, and then we do the deep dive and look at the root cause of what we can do, and they joined up thinking, and it's like, yeah, that's too much. We just want that singular solution. There is no single solution.
No.
It's co-joined solutions that work in partnership. And so I'm really keen to know and understand what experience, or where do you think the solution for blockchain is going to live? Because Santosh and I and the team are already going to be looking at blockchain for the supply chain, not for Bitcoin, but looking at that and how do we make sure that what we're bringing to market is truly sustainable? Because for us, it's about creating parity within the supply chain. But the first piece that I've now got sitting with ScotsGov at the moment is around identifying and using blockchain as a skills ledger, because that's our way in terms of how we are going to move our global model forward, where we can have artisans and rural communities being factored in and considered under what used to be big factory conditions. We want to do away with the big factories, but have a digitally connected. So how do we do that? Putting people and the planet at the heart of that.
Okay, I'll answer to you. It's a very interesting question. In fact, I did a similar session just on 2 days ago, and that was for a different audience who are working for the United Nations Global GNCI. And that was completely on sustainability, because they are developing the sustainable solutions and have been invited by the United Nations, to come and tell them what they can do. So coming back to the question that you said, see, blockchain has its own advantages. It's like I said, what do you use it for? Are you using it for mining, or are you using it for, developing, what do we say? You're tracking the source. You want to see the entire supply chain, or the entire chain, right? The different steps where, where is your product, where does it come from? You're just going through the source.
Even deeper than that, we want to make sure that the profit at the tail end, actually the profitability is shared back down through dividends in the supply chain, so that everyone benefits.
Correct. So you want to track, you want to make sure that it is not going in the wrong hands, whatever that you want to track, right? You want to use it for an advantage. Now you picked a very interesting industry, and that's something I again talk about, because there is a huge, today, if you take the current climatic condition, there's a huge challenge in the supply chain industry itself. The whole supply chain has been disrupted, and some of the examples I already gave you. Today there's a high demand for the chips, but today they don't have the supply. There's a huge demand, but there's no supply, which means if they don't get the chips, how are the auto manufacturers going to produce more? So there's a whole load of issues that's happened because of this supply chain. There is no resilience in the supply chain industry right now. Now, you can use the same blockchain to monitor your the entire supply chain model, or whatever that you want to develop. And that's a very useful technology, where that you are able to see. I'm not saying technology is a foolproof, but at least you can leverage it at its best for making sure that you have a visibility. Now, blockchain gives you that you have the visibility of the supply chain bit. Now, where is it, where is the source coming from? Has that the PO released? Has the money come in? Has the payment been made? So you want to make sure that your entire supply chain is taken care of, is well monitored, and everybody has the visibility to deliver whatever is expected, which means I'm a happy customer, I'm a happy producer, and everybody is happy, and we are ensuring a uniformity, or there is no disparity in what is going to come about. So that is a very good way of leveraging a technology. And that's an example I gave you.
Thank you, Rajeshri. Really appreciate that. I've taken notes. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishi. Ravindranath is asking, I'm stuck with the thought that advancement in technology will be a threat to humanity. How can we strike a balance between this advancement and a conflict-free, happy world?
Okay. Again, I will go back to the point that I made. Technology is not the answer to solve all our problems. And that is a big mistake that we have been making, because we believe technology is the solution. Um, and that's something I keep telling. See, technology is only a facilitator. No matter which technology you use, see, we have to use something so that we can do. But if the same thing is going to disrupt your world and environment and everything else, technology is not the answer. This is what people are not understanding. See, what is today you need? What is the business looking? Three very important aspects they want to achieve. One is increase in the productivity and efficiency, cost reduction, and value and impact to the business. The three most important things. And how do you leverage technology to achieve this? Is what you have to work smartly, and technology is not the answer to all your business problems or all your problems either. You have to leverage, and I always keep using the word leverage, and I use the word facilitator. It doesn't change our life, but what we have entered into an era, which is what Ravindranath is saying. Yeah, with the advancement we are actually disrupting the world, which is a fact of life. That is because our greed has grown too much. Where does it all stem from? It all stems from the desires to want more, to own more, to earn. I want to make my billions. Everybody is interested, like I said, they want their pound of flesh, but at what cost? Today you take this pandemic. I'll give you a very example. This is the way how the nature works. I'm a nature lover, and I'll tell you how the universe works, because you need to communicate with the universe. I always love communicate. I do that. And you know what the universe does is, when everybody is going without a break, the pause is the pandemic. For man to understand, you can't exploit so much. And today you're forced to stay within the closed doors. There's no air travel happening. Hotel industry is disrupted. There is no nightlife. There is no impulsive buying. Okay, you can't impulsive. People have lost jobs according to World Economic Forums. The word about 3.6 billion people are in job total. Okay, out of which 1.6 billion, almost half of the people, have jobless. And today, what is the kind of market that is growing? It's growing in technology space, data scientists, data analysis, and whatever, I don't know, whatever else. But today, the kind of job, I'm being very honest, if I want to do a job, I want to do in the innovation space. I want to make a difference to the world, to the place I work, to bringing this element of sustainability, and also giving value and impact to the business and to my customers and to myself, for having a better future. So how do you do this? So can we reduce? Can we go back to our roots? Can we adapt simple means? Why do we need to have some very super, people today? I'll give you a very simple, stupid example. Okay, why do you need a remote to turn on your fan? Can you just walk and start? Are you become so inertial? I mean, when I went to move to Singapore, for me the concept of having a remote to turn on a fan was never existing. And when I bought, because I only lived on fan, I mean, my only way of getting air was through fan. So when I bought this fan, this is a remote. I'm like, oh my god, that was such a surprise thing. And you know what? I never used the remote because that's not my way of life. I would get up and go and manually turn on. Why do you need a remote to the TV? And why do you just sit at your bed and become an obsessive, I don't know what, obese? I can call all sorts of things. Your health is gone. You become the most laziest person, and people are not even productive today. What the hell are you doing? And you're disrupting the nature endlessly. So she put a break now. So what is happening today? Now the concept, the future, how the universe rejuvenates itself? Let me explain to you. Today we're sitting home, we're not going. So even if the office opens, you're going to have a hybrid work model, which means you go to office 2 days, you work 3 days from home, or even, I know people are doing 25%, 50%, whatever that they work out. But which means I don't need the whole, I live in a place where it was a field. It's called a white field. Today it's a concrete jungle. Why am I destroying the environment? Why? Because there's so much more growing. You're growing your concrete jungle. Where is the environment? And we're not even replanting. There is no replenishment is not happening. If you're destroyed a whole farm, but where is the replenishment of those trees again? That's not being done. So who's responsible? We have to blame ourselves for the amount of things we are aspiring. Why do you need to become, you see, there is only one Bill Gates, one Bezos. And what has Bezos done? Has disrupted the retail industry. Today, we all are sitting at home and ordering. Can you just go down, go to your supermarket? Can you physically go and buy? That gives you at least some way, air room. We all wanted a button. You take a phone, you order, it's this door. How lazy can you become? Can you wake up? Change? Can you go back to your natural ways? the ways we have been living with. And the worst part is, let me tell you what is going, and so before I get to the worst part, I'll tell you. So what the universe did is she put a break on everything right now. So today, the future, we're changing. So we don't need this kind of massive concrete jungle. We don't have to die in that traffic. We don't have to live in a polluted world. So that way, you're also, it's a cost effective, you have a balanced way of life. You're reducing using fuels, and we're importing so much of fuels, and we're reducing the consumption of fuel, which means we are not going to destroy the fossil fuel, which is non-renewable. Same thing goes with the permafrost. Today, the ocean, the people who sorry, they are called by name, who study and research about the ocean. Why is the ice melting? The permafrost has been melting because the amount of, again, some people have gone and found the oil field under the sea, and now they have already gone and invaded. So, people are want to claiming ownership to Atlantic Ocean. There is Russia and some other countries. There's environmentalists. Everybody's trying to go and claim their stake. What are we? You don't even want to spare those poor creatures in the sea living peacefully. You want to destroy everything. How much greed is this? Your life is very short. Today, pandemic has taken away n number of people's lives. Can you get back? Can that wealth get back your life? If you fall sick, can your $1 billion buy that health back? No. So can we live and let live? Can we make this world a better place? Wealth, sorry, I'm just going to take a spiritual spiel here. Wealth is to establish righteousness, which means wealth is there so that you can create a balance. You can also give to those who don't have. Today, we have lost our value system. And the only way we can transform is stop using technology that is not relevant to you at all. Be a minimalistic and live a simple life and give back to this world as much as you can. Sorry, that was a very lengthy answer.
Wow. Leave alone fan. We depend on Alexa to decide what should be the menu for tomorrow's breakfast. Thank you, Rajshri, for the morning. Ravindra answer says. Yes, I think. Any other question? Anju ma'am is ready, I think. Anju ma'am, do you have any question?
No, I was appreciating, and I totally agree with what she was saying. And I really pass all these messages to everybody. Why you're sitting, even that Alexa, what he's talking about, you can see children now, they don't want to, get up and switch on the radio or switch on the TV and all. And this, Alexa, please do this. Alexa, please do that. So that is really true. I mean, we need to upgrade, but then the system is such, the system and the environment in which we're living. I don't know how far we'll be successful to change the minds of our children.
No, but to answer to your question, it is we who have to teach our children the value systems.
Exactly.
Why do you want to gift your child with the Alexa? Why can't you buy her about, books on what is our ancient tradition, culture, something about art? Can we not educate them? See, today, the children's mind is very, moldable. They are like a clay, but it is you who has to be able to inculcate that in them. For me, if I see any kid with a phone, I want to give them two tight slap. I'll say, please get off that phone, throw that out. I literally take it and throw it out. And I'm the last person who love to be on phone, unless and until it's WhatsApp and basic thing. That's all I use for few apps. I keep very minimalistic use of my phone. And yeah, I use it payment. The only thing is I use is wallet payment because I don't want to carry cash and all that heavy, high maintenance. That's the only thing that I have few things. If you look at it, I have least apps, and I see people's phones, it's flooded with apps. And today everybody wants a phone at an early age. I'm sorry. Today people have, the children don't know what it is to play outside. For them, playing is indoor games. They don't know how to go and run. We used to play hide and seek. We used to go play a lot of our body was active. We had the, nice environment. We were mingling with people. They don't know how to speak today. Forget about it. Basic etiquette is not there. And who do I blame to? And please remember, there's another very interesting way what is happening. And that's also because about today, when we live in this kind of pressured life, I'll tell you, and how this can impact the children. One very important aspect, Aparna, which you talked about after my last session. And in that, we are talking about how do we, bring this, understanding to the kids is what you asked. And let me tell you who's to be blamed right now. This whole disruption today, if you look at, everybody is in depression, but they're not going to tell you they are in depression, because this is what has happened. And depression is not, the word depression is a very vague thing. Technically, it's an emotional disorder. You're going through your mood swings. And you know what happens is, when we are in a weird mood, our thinking is completely messed up, because we are associating any decision making based on our feelings. We are not thinking about what is that we are doing, and we have a global thinking. We assume, we imagine, we fear. There's so many things that's going you, and you can't focus today. The reason why people cannot be successful is we do not focus. And the worst part is, when in all these conditions, who are you affecting? The way you are going to be, it's going to impact your children. You know, there's a very interesting, huge research done. The last 3 generation itself, if your parents or grandparents have been in whatever that state, you know, they have passed on through their DNA to this generation. This generation, we are still better. But you know what, even if you ask me basic things, right, I might have gone through something in my life, but that is somewhere hidden, and it comes out, that reaction happens much later in life when you least expect it. And you will wonder, oh my god, am I reacting? Why am I reacting? Why am I getting angry? And you don't know what's going on, because you don't know the root. So when I did this root cause analysis through the concept with my guru in spiritual world, and that is when I understand, like, we need to learn to let go of our past. We need to let go of a lot of things which is not going to make any difference. Things that have happened, learn to let go, forget it. But to be happy within yourself, first you have to accept yourself. And because this is, and today if you say this pandemic and the latest research is, it's caused so much harm today. People, when you conceive as a mother, if you have whatever feeling and all that, you're actually giving birth to a child with already, who has the DNA terribly, instilled in him or her. Now who's going to tell you? You're not only yourself impacted, but you're passing on. So the future generations quality of intelligence, everything is going to be deteriorated, and we are responsible for it. And that is why we need to harbor good thoughts, goodness. We need to set ourselves as an example. Never say bad words, never teach bad things, greed, to envy, to hate somebody. No, we are our dharma is called Sanatan Dharma, which means of brotherhood, kindness, goodness, compassion. Nothing exists in our world today. Everybody is want to murder the other person. Each one is at the other's throat. So our value system is not there. So for all of this to fit in, we have to begin at home. And please throw that phone from your child. If your child is doing, please remember the amount of mental disorder they get into. Something that you will not understand is happening to them. So you need to educate them with why it is harmful in a very nice manner, loving manner. Give love. Goodness is what is important. Today, these 2 words doesn't stand in our world.
Yes, Anjuma.
Yeah. So, let me share one, like she's saying about Rashiri. Yes, our holy books, our scriptures, they talk a lot. If you have read, there is a book called 10 Gurus, of Sikh Dharma. Guru Nanak Dev Ji once, in one of his scriptures, he has mentioned that lady, a housewife, if she is cooking in the kitchen, and if she is doing Simran, if she is thinking of God, if she is praying, any God you believe in, if you are praying, all those people, those who are going to eat that food on the table, will have good thoughts. That means it really has a power. And, believe me, all the girls and all the, the children, those who are going to get married now and all, I keep on, sharing this episode with them. Think, especially when you are in a kitchen, have good thoughts. Think, pray, so that you get something positive in life. And then whoever is associated with that food, even the guests who are coming to your place, they will also feel positive.
Right.
The second thing is, every day and night, when you're talking about negativity, your house, you have a negative aura all the way, in your house, in your presence, and even in your factory or business and everywhere. So it's really good what you said, that we should learn to let go. We should try to, what I feel is, you should have something positive out of that negativity also.
You said a very nice thing. I'll just give a very small story. This is a Japanese concept. Okay, in Japan, when a bowl is broken, right, they don't discard it. So what they do is they take that bowl and they, whatever the crockery might be, they use the original gold to fill that lining. And they say the scars is what is made you who you are. The scar is what is the most beautiful aspect of your life. So that scar is what defines you in life. In fact, very nice to know, listen to you about, that holy books. Yeah, I am a spiritualist. For me, all religion is one alone. I'm not a religion person at all. Last year, last in 2019 December, I visited Amritsar. So for me, even in that cold, I was sick, I was down with high temperature, everything. But for me, I wanted to visit the Palki, which happens because for me, Guru is a very important aspect because I have my Guru in my life and I'm a spiritualist. I learn from him. So for me, Guru's words is the most important thing. So for me, it doesn't matter about what religion. When I went there, the power, like what they did, the whole thing was so profound. But do really people live? See, it is practiced. Maybe few people over there can, but you others, if you look at, people are like, I felt what is missing even in that holy places. People are like, pushing you, telling you can't be here, you're somebody else, you're from another thing. But I've come to worship something beautiful. So even then people don't live the lessons. Why? Because today we think it's our possession, but you're not living what you study. My Guruji says, yeah, those who the proofreaders, if they were so knowledgeable, the proofreaders would have become realized beings. The reason why this knowledge is so important, the basic word one is goodness. The word to live goodness, it doesn't come because we go into our human, the lower nature of us. We do not, and this is where we have to consciously practice, and that doesn't come overnight. We all have to work as a collective, whether it's a family, everybody has to live those values. Like every day you have to teach your child to live one thing from your scripture and saying, giving one good story, telling what this is what you have to build, so they get that knowledge throughout their journey. Oh, thank you for sharing, that's very nice.
Thank you, Rajni. It was really, really nice. I wish we had a session with young children, sometimes. And they sit across and they watch and they listen to all these things.
Very happy to do, more than happy to.
We will do that. We will do that.
Organize one session like that with the children also.
I will.
Right. Yeah, we will have a session with children. And any other questions do we have in chat? I think no more questions. Anybody have any questions? Abir, would you like to ask something? Because Abir is working for sustainability. Yes,
I have one question. Thank you. I really appreciate your speech and your advices. It's very interesting. The topic is quite interesting. What you are saying is very clear. I hope it will invite people to be involved. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Abir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Abir. I think no more questions. Santosh saying so powerful. Yes, it was absolutely amazing and powerful. I totally agree with you, Rajshri, when you said the universe has put a break now for the global pandemic, and the nature has taken over and she's healing herself now. And as you said, it is time to go back to our roots and go back to our value system. I also most of the time wonder why I'm getting angry. Then I realize that I'm also a victim of, victims. Like my parents were also victims of their parents' behaviors, and we need to break the chain somewhere. So I'm trying to teach my children to be happy all the time. Problems are part of life and we have to accept it and move on. Well, thank you so much. That was an awesome session. We are looking forward to have more sessions from you, especially about solutions and small steps we can take towards sustainability. And dear audience, yeah, that's it.
No, thank you for this opportunity and thank you for hosting this. More than happy to do the sessions and looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear audience. Also, on behalf of GCPIT, I thank you all for joining us today. And if you would like to connect with Rajshri, you can go to our website, gcpit.org, and you have an option to connect through email. And if you feel you are an elite performer and exceptional leader, you want to join us in our mission, please contact us at gcpit.org. And see you all tomorrow. We have another leader joining us from Dubai, Ms. Sita Sagaran, who is going to talk about mindfulness. See you all tomorrow. Till then, this is Aparna G. Kumar signing off. Stay safe. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from. And Rajshri, would you like to add something more as your
Connected, I'm very much available on LinkedIn all the time. Literally, I thrive there. So please feel free to connect, and we'll be very happy to discuss in whatever capacity I can. Very happy to. Thank you for listening in, and it's been a very lovely interactive session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rajshri. Thank you, dear audience. We will meet tomorrow. Till then, take care. Stay safe.
Thank you. Stay blessed.